Okay, good morning and welcome to Infrastructure Matters. We are here in beautiful spring day, Krista Macomber and Camberley Bates. Once again, your host. Steve is off someplace in the UK. I think he's was over there with clients, and then I think he got some time with his family, which is wonderful. We've got some great stuff. I think we're going to be really focusing on a lot of the security data protection today. Next week, when this publishes, is RSA, and Krista, as Krista from our team is going to be there, as well as a couple of others. Cher Rubinoff is going to be there, and I think Jeff Turner. We got a crowd over there, right? And it's actually a crazy, crazy show, busy show. That's what I mean. I mean not crazy, but crazy busy show. So let's get into it. Krista, the first thing you had on the list was talking about Commvault earnings.
Yep.
Wow, that was out of the ballpark.
I know, exactly. So I have kind of some of my notes here just to refer to some of the numbers. Their revenue for the quarter. So they discussed both their fiscal quarter that ended on March 31st, as well as their full fiscal year that also ended on March 31st. So revenues for the quarter up 10% year to year to 223 million. That exceeded their guidance range. And similarly for their full fiscal year, they also exceeded their guidance range, and that revenue grew 7% to sounds like just under $840 million. And so what I'm really kind of loving having the opportunity to get a bit of a front row seat here is when we think about Commvault, we think about a lot of, data protection, the ability to back up and recover data. And of course, that remains very kind of core to Commvault's business. But also they really have put a stake in the ground. They did this at an event that they called Shift last fall that we got to kind of attend and cover. But they're really broadening that into a cyber resiliency play. And we certainly are seeing that that's helping kind of, some of those top line numbers for sure. And when we think about kind of even looking ahead to their coming fiscal year, they've announced some, kind of really, fairly aggressive, I would say, targets, but they have a number of tools in their belt. So even just over the last couple of weeks, they announced one was an acquisition of a company called Appranix that does kind of full application stack recovery in addition to being able to recover the data. And they also announced the availability of a clean room function that allows customers to sort of either test their recovery from a disaster or a cyber attack, but also to be able to kind of automatically execute and kind of have a cloud environment for failover. So, that was kind of really the first thing that jumped out to me looking at their earnings.
Well, and just seeing they've really done well getting their ARR up as well. I think it was well over 25% or something like that. So that continues to grow as well as their cloud offerings. So the second thing that is right on the backside of them, we've got Dell. Data Protection Group had a new announcement on the data domain system, as well as PowerProtect, which is PowerProtect Data Domain and PowerProtect Data Manager. My call out is to Rob Emsley, as I always have said. They've always been challenged with the naming of this system. So, and Data Domain remains a very dominant brand. So, anyway, why don't you talk about not the naming, but what they actually announced?
I know. It was data domain, then it was PowerProtect DD. Now it is PowerProtect data domain again, which I think is smart. As you referenced, Camberley, just given the, just the recognition that brand has in the marketplace. Yep. And that's certainly not going away. Yeah. So when we look at data domain, I mean, a couple things to me jumped out for the announcement. Number one is we did see some, advancements to backup and recovery performance. So that's based on kind of the new Intel chipsets. Really is kind of one thing that's facilitating that performance. And on one hand, I did see kind of some commentary in the news around kind of like, okay, this is kind of, your standard, what we would expect with a next generation system. And that is true. However, the additional commentary that I would add is, the backup performance that becomes important because it helps to ensure that you have that backup copy copy to be able to recover from. Obviously, if you need to meet your backup windows, and as those backup windows become increasingly small these days, just because of how much we're relying on data and kind of our IT services. So that's the additional commentary I'd add on that front. And then the performance, certainly that's going to become increasingly important as we try to, reduce our downtime and kind of support that business continuity, especially in the event of, natural disasters, cyber attacks, things of that nature. So on
Wasn't just the turnover of going to a new processor though, because they did some design work with the what they're doing within compression and the
yes.
compression being on all the time in terms of that offload, so that enables them to do that compression all the time, offload it capabilities,
Mhm.
and also some work that they've done with some of the others. So it's not just, there has been some innovation in terms of definitely innovation on the hardware side and what they're doing to get where they're going on this. Yeah.
Certainly. Yep, absolutely, certainly. And that's really when we look across the data protection portfolio for Dell. So naturally, there's a lot of innovation there, a lot of moving parts that it brings to the table. But that data domain boost, that as you mentioned, that kind of compression
Mhm.
deduplication technology, that's something that I've seen Dell really try to strategically weave as it can throughout that portfolio. And I
Yeah.
do agree, it's an important differentiator for Dell for sure.
It's a big differentiator in terms of performance, et cetera, and extending that right into um, the space. So, and then the PowerProtect had a couple of key updates too, as well, right?
Yep. I know one thing was, so they have, it's called now Dell Storage Direct Protection. And again, from a branding perspective, I have kind of my note here. And that is the ability to be able to directly back up PowerMax arrays. So this is something that Dell, they've dabbled in this in the past. It was called Dell Storage Protect before, but they've really, it sounds like, kind of re-architected it for faster performance, greater efficiency, and really that is to be able to kind of bring that to your direct backups of the PowerMax system. So I did want to touch on that because I knew there was a little confusion because some folks had kind of heard of this before, so that was kind of the story from that perspective. Uh,
Then that's the power of having a portfolio, right?
yeah,
When you own the entire, both the data storage portfolio and the protection portfolio, now all of a sudden you've got the ability to do design work within those. So I believe this is Power Max and Power Store that they have this
yeah.
capability with now.
Yep, the Power Store was announced late last or earlier last year, I believe. Rob Emsley said, and so this is kind of for the Power Max arrays.
Okay, cool,
Yep.
great, great. So all in all, great announcements, and I know they've got some big stuff coming. Probably this next year, we're going to see some more on cloud or as a service and that kind of thing. So
Yep.
they continue to be the big guys in the market, and servicing the very large enterprises with the data domain, especially. So
Absolutely. And I think maybe the only other thing to touch on is so for their Apex backup services, those are essentially based on the Druva backup as a service technology. And actually, Dell has now integrating the Druva's sort of, kind of AI assistant, co-pilot type functionality. I believe Druva calls it Drew, but Dell is just kind of discussing it as a generative AI capability that can do things like, really maybe helped less skilled IT staff answer kind of more sophisticated questions, for example, and really kind of help them to maybe kind of query the environment and kind of streamline some of their operations. So it's kind of Dell is dabbling in this front like a lot of data protection vendors are these days, and it's definitely something that I would look to see, not just for Dell but really overall. What is customer adoption like of these types of technologies, and then also for Dell in particular, to your point, Camberley, regarding the portfolio perspective, what might Dell's plans be to kind of integrate similar capabilities across other areas of the portfolio?
yeah, yeah. So another topic, I'm going to shift over to some briefings that we had this week,
Mhm.
catching up with Hitachi, and there's Hitachi Vantara, and some big organizational changes and vision that's going over there. So we had an opportunity to go through what was announced last year is now GA, is their essentially is their virtual storage platform, VSP, for software defined block, and then also their cloud virtual and the one file product that we have. But I think most importantly, what I want to talk about is what's happened at Hitachi. And if you didn't see this, this was starting last year, when Hitachi Vantara had been combined with this data side of the house, the data analytics, the smart city piece of it. And that now was spun off and is part of a different group. And Hitachi itself, Hitachi Vantara, is now entirely back focused with data storage. And why this is so important is, up until 3 years ago, we haven't seen a whole lot out of them, for the last 3 years, or even more than that, actually, in terms of new items coming out, new products coming out, etc. And this, in addition to not only bringing this new product line out that we'll be reporting on, but it was the organization. So Sheila Roja is the CEO. She's brought in, and I've already mentioned this before, the CPO, Chief Product Officer, that came over from NetApp, Octavian. They've got also some other new executives that are there. Neil McGowan, I think, is the new CRO that's there. They have now Hitachi, all the engineering has typically been done over at Hitachi corporate in Japan. And Hitachi corporate has always managed that, developed that, done all of it. Requirements could go over there from Hitachi Vantara, but they weren't in charge of what was actually being done and ultimately being done. What just changed recently is that they have formed a new company over there, Hitachi Vantara Limited, Japan,
Mm-hmm.
that is now owned by and reporting into, if you will, Hitachi Vantara LLC, which is the one here in the United States. And that's a huge change in terms of direction and where the product is going, where the products will be going. So we'll be seeing some real interesting creative things coming out of the organization. And the big piece of it is this vision that they have for this one storage platform available across the footprint, with the control plane that can control block, cloud, and file, and object in the future. They're rolling out pieces as they are coming out available, which is what we see now. And we're going to be doing a much deeper dive with them a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to kind of highlight that because how important that is of where that is going.
Yeah. And I know, Camberley, we were having a call with the team or just a conversation with the team either yesterday or the day before. And there was a commentary around, we haven't heard much from them in the storage space for a few years now. So as you mentioned, this is kind of, a big announcement for them and certainly very good to see. I think from your perspective, as we think about the next maybe, year, 18 months, as they look to kind of, really refuel that business. From your perspective, what really will be maybe some of the critical either investment areas or KPIs or things like that to look for?
Well, I think more of it is that we haven't heard from them. I think they've been developing it because, one of the things they went through with us on the call was their status with energy efficiency. And you would expect that coming from a country like Japan. It's always been, concerned about their resources, et cetera, and being very, very efficient with what they do. And as they rolled out a couple things, they were showing, number one, they are number one in the Energy Star IOPS, number of IOPS per watt, which is a very significant. So if you don't know what Energy Star is, the SNEA, which is the Association for the Storage Industry, created an energy testing, and that got submitted into the Energy Star people for their analysis. And so you can go up there and see the different data storage devices that are ranked IOPS per watt. They are also manufacturing now in Japan. They're not manufactured in Foxconn. So they own, much like we're seeing this trending of chips and things coming back to the United States because of the fear of the supply chain and the geopolitical kind of things, they had already moved theirs there. So they know where it's being manufactured, and they're doing their manufacturing. So they've got the control of the waste, and so they're heavily measuring themselves already on the manufacturing of it and the waste, or getting rid of the waste there, and then the recycling of the items on the other side. So they're covering all edges, sides of the energy and the efficiency, and space that's there. So that's one piece of it. They've always had superior performance, great performance out there. They're continuing to do that. What they're doing now is they are moving off their what they had as their customized flash memory modules, and going to standard SSDs. They're going more to standard um, servers, so off the shelf servers versus everything being custom built, and focusing on the software stack.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're going to see them building out is this software stack, both the control plane, or the data management software as they call
Mm-hmm.
it, and that will be able to manage through, on the cloud, on prem, file block, whatever, and bring those things together. So the file side of that is, what we all knew as BlueArc, and then HNAS, building that in, so at least there is a singular management plane, not necessarily, they're going to be performant, and different performance based upon the different protocol
Mm-hmm.
capabilities that they have. So,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, yeah. So let's move on to the other topic that we have, which is going to be some of the security stuff that's going to be coming out. And I think you have one that's already out, or is out today.
Yep.
Microsoft.
Yep, we have one that is going to be coming basically right as we're closing our recording here, and that is going to be coming from Microsoft. And Microsoft is actually going to be having a number of additional announcements next week at RSA, as are, of course, more vendors than I could, even count. So, I did want to kind of give a little bit of a prelude here. We're going to be recording some great content with Microsoft actually while at the show. But this announcement, I thought it was really interesting. So Microsoft announced, they call it their Secure Future Initiative, and they announced it in the fall of last year. And this initiative from Microsoft, it sort of started out as an initiative to really make sure that key security functionalities are being baked in across the Microsoft portfolio from a product perspective at the start, which of course, that's going to be fundamental and sort of step one when we think about cybersecurity and cyber resiliency. What I love that Microsoft is doing here with this announcement is that they're also integrating their people and their processes as well into this. Again, they call it their Secure Future Initiative. So they're apparently going to be basing a portion of compensation of their senior leaders on progress towards some security milestones and goals. They are going to be adding what they call deputy CISOs across each of their product teams, which I thought was really interesting.
Mm.
And then in addition, they're going to be, kind of continuing to invest from an engineering perspective to, again, as I referenced, kind of prioritize some of those, security features, any remediation for kind of patches or vulnerabilities. So again, especially as I'm sort of heading into RSA, of course, there's a lot of technology, there's a lot of buzz about, which are kind of the hottest companies or products or services to look at. But I think it's also really important to keep in mind that these tools are not implemented in a vacuum. They're implemented alongside other technologies, they're implemented alongside human beings that are going to be using and operating them at the end of the day. And then, especially as we also start to think about artificial intelligence and how we start to integrate that into our technologies and also into our kind of daily processes, it was just sort of as we begin to kick off the conference, for me, it was sort of a great reminder that, we can't lose sight of the other two legs of that stool, if you will, in terms of, our people and our processes.
That's actually really fascinating that they're putting deputy CISOs in every product area.
Hmm.
If you go back, you know, it was always seemingly that the things that got broken into were always the Microsoft products,
Hmm.
or and it wasn't others because, and the reason why is because if you hit Microsoft, you hit like 99% of the world, right?
Yeah.
And so if I break in, the bigger that it is, and they weren't always known as probably the most buttoned down software that was out there.
Yeah.
So this is a big statement on their part and a big investment, to be putting these people in place in each of the products to say, okay, so maybe I'm not saying security first, but it's pretty close to saying that.
I mean, my LinkedIn post that is going to be coming out, I did use that language, sort of to me, I think it's, kind of that statement. And, um, I like to see it, especially, they did have that Midnight Blizzard attack last fall. Of course, they're
Mhm.
certainly not alone. But to your point, Camberley, I think it kind of showed, a company like Microsoft that is so large, so well established, especially in sort of, enterprise and workforce productivity, the fact that they weren't even immune, you know what I mean? I think they really, on the kind of backside of that, have really been not only bringing some very cool pieces of technology to market. We worked with them earlier this year on what they were doing around Copilot, and I'm sure we're going to be hearing more about that this week. But also, as you mentioned, making sure that they're continuing to invest from an internal Microsoft perspective in these deputy CISOs and things of that nature, to really make sure that they're keeping, as up to date as it is possible with, different attack vectors and vulnerabilities and things like that. So I'm really, really looking forward to having these conversations with them.
All right. So one last question I have,
Hmm.
and is kind of what are you expecting to be the big themes coming out of RSA next week?
Yeah, yeah, I
We'll
think
test you today, and then we'll see if actually was true at the end next week.
I know, right? Let's break out the crystal ball here, right? Yeah, so definitely a few things. And actually, I was starting to put some thought to this because I will, of course, have some coverage. And so I was kind of thinking, okay, I need to start organizing, how we're going to cover this. And I think one theme I think will be artificial intelligence and Gen AI. So
Peanut butter,
RSA,
peanut butter, peanut buttered.
I know, right? And it's interesting because so I did not have the opportunity to attend last year, but I am aware of the fact that the RSA conference last year occurred, kind of off on the heels of ChatGPT, right? And so it was kind of top of mind at that point, but I think it was still so new that there wasn't a ton of meat there. And so I think we're going to start to see a lot more meat from a couple of different perspectives. So not only using artificial intelligence to support the defenders, if you will, right? Using artificial intelligence to improve things like our ability to detect attacks, our ability to, quickly have incident response and quickly recover from attacks and things of that nature. But also having some of these conversations around securing artificial intelligence applications, their training data, any RAG models, for example. So I think there's going to be a number of streams of conversations around AI that we're going to be having, and is going to kind of have that additional layer of maybe sophistication that perhaps it didn't have last at this point last year, just
So
because.
maybe we'll actually have bullet points under AI. So
Yeah.
they'll say generative AI was a theme, but what are the key themes of that? Using the tool, using generative AI to better predict and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So we're
Yeah.
actually getting into, okay, what are we really doing here, guys?
Exactly, exactly. Okay, so it's the buzzword, that's great, but what do we actually need to do and be worried about tactically? And kind of that leads me to, so there's a couple other things, but that leads me to another topic that I'm expecting, which is kind of this burnout of security teams, security analysts, and things of that nature. They just continue to get inundated. I mean, we talk about that on the IT operations side, but you can make a case that maybe even the security teams are getting maybe even more inundated these days, just because, um, piggybacking on AI, I think AI is going to fuel, um, is going to kind of fuel the cadence at which attackers are also evolving, right? So they have AI now, and I've been listening to actually Darknet Diaries, kind of the podcast around, just kind of the dark side of how attackers are evolving, and just even some of the social engineering and sort of how those attacks are evolving. I mean, it's pretty frightening, especially when we think about deep fakes and kind of how realistic these attacks can be and just how innovative. So I think, that's going to be a big theme. And the third topic that is top of mind for me that sort of maybe ties a bow on all of this a little bit is just kind of your security posture management. So, as you know, Camberley, I spend a lot of time in the world of data protection and data security. And that's kind of looking at your data security posture management is one thing, but that's certainly extending, across the network, certainly into the application space. So I just earlier this week had a webinar with a company called Pint that does API security. And part of that is, taking stock of all your APIs, knowing what you have, knowing where your vulnerabilities are, being able to test them. And so it's, having this more proactive and preventative approach and really leveraging a strong sense of your security posture and kind of where you really need to prioritize across all of your assets. I think that's going to be, a big kind of theme of conversation also next week.
Well, it's going to be a full week. It's kind of like what VMware went, at one point in time, VMware was where everybody had to be. It seems like RSA is where everybody has to be.
Yeah.
So either that or either that or the GTC. That's the
Yeah.
other one. Or AWS. I guess we've got a few of those nowadays. Okay, well, you guys have either learned a lot or you just wasted a half an hour listening to us. So thank you very much for taking the time to tune into Infrastructure Matters. Share, let your friends know this is a fabulous podcast and webcast or whatever. And we will catch you next week. We'll see if Miss Krista was right about what the big themes are coming out of there and the big announcements. Okay. Thank you very much, guys, and have a great week.
Thank you.